We're reading today Canto 9, Chapter 11, Lord Ramachandra Rules the World, text number 20. Na idam yashaha ragupatehe sura yachnaya attalilatano adhikasamya vimuktadhamnaha rakshah vadhah jaladhibandhanam astrapungaihi kim tasya satruhanane kapayaha sahayaha nedam yasho ragupateh surayachaya yachnayata nedam yasho ragupateh surayachnayata Lila tano radhika samya vimukta dhamna Lila tano radhika samya vimukta dhamna Raksho vadho jaladhi bandhanamastra pungai Raksho vadho jaladipandanamastra pungai Kim tasya shatruhanane kapayah sahayaha Kim tasya shatruhanane kapayah sahayaha Nedam yasho ragupateh surayachnayata Lila tano radhika samya vimukta dhamna Raksho vadho jalabdhi bandhanamastra pungai Kim tasya shatruhanane kapayah sahayaha Next, please.
Nedam yashora gupate surayachnayata
Surayachnayata Tanurika samya vimukta dhamna Jaladipandanamastra pungai Satruhanane kapaya sahaya
Nedam yashora gupate surayachnayata Lila tanordika samya vimukta dhamna Raksho vadho jaladi bandhanamastra pugai Kim tasya satruhanane
Na, not. Idam, all this. Yashaha, fame. Raghupatehe, of Lord Ramachandra. Surayachnaya, by the prayers of the demigods. Attalila Tanoho, whose spiritual body is always engaged in various pastimes. Adhika Samya Vimukta Dhamnaha, no one is greater than or equal to him. Rakshavadaha, killing the Rakshasa Ravana. Jaladhi Bandhanam, bridging the ocean. Astrapungaihi, with bow and arrows. Kim, whether. Tasya, his. Shatruhanane, in killing the enemies. Kapayaha, the monkeys. Sahayaha, assistants. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhakti Vijnana Goswami Srila Prabhupada. Lord Ramachandra's reputation for having killed Ravana with showers of arrows at the request of the demigods, and for having built the bridge over the ocean does not constitute his factual glory of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Ramachandra, whose spiritual body is always engaged in various pastimes. Lord Ramachandra has no equal or superior, and therefore he had no need to take help from the monkeys to gain victory over Ravana. Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Mai ki jai, Shri Nrisimhadeva ki jai, Shri Gornitai ki jai. Purport. By his multifarious energies, the Lord has nothing to do natasya karyam karanam chavidyate, whether he does whatever he does in his pastimes is his pastime. The Lord has no duty to perform to oblige anyone. Nonetheless, he appears to act to protect his devotees or kill his enemies. Of course, no one can be Lord's enemy, since who could be more powerful than the Lord? There is actually no question of anyone's being his enemy, but when the Lord wants to take pleasure in pastimes, he comes down to this material world and acts like a human being, thus showing his wonderful, glorious activities to please the devotees. His devotees always want to see the Lord victorious in varied activities, and therefore, to please himself and them, the Lord sometimes agrees to act as a human being and perform wonderful, uncommon pastimes for the satisfaction of the devotees. Nedam yasho raghupatek sura yachnayata lilatano radhika samya vimukta dhamnah raksho vadho jaladhi bandhanam astra pungaihi kim tasya shatruhanane kapayah sahayaham. Lord Ramachandra's reputation for having killed Ravana with showers of arrows at the request of the demigods and for having built a bridge over the ocean does not constitute the factual glory of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Ramachandra, whose spiritual body is always engaged in various pastimes. Lord Ramachandra has no equal or superior, and therefore he had no need to take help from the monkeys to gain victory over Ravana. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatyadesatarine Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Ajanulambita Bhujo Kanakavadatu Sankirtanai Kapitaro Kamalaya Taksha Vishwambaro Dvijavaro Yugadharma Pala Vande Jagat Priyakaro Karunavatari Undah Pravishya Mama Vachim Imam Prasuptam Sanjivayata Kila Shakti Daraksvadham Nanyam Shahasta Charana Shravana Tvagadim Pranannamo Bhagavate Purushaya Tubhyam Svasyastu Vishwasya Kalach Prasidatam Deyantu Bhutani Shivam Mithodya Manaschabadaram Bhajatata Doksaja Aveshyatam Naumatir Apyahaituki. Hare Krishna. So this beautiful verse from the 11th chapter of the 9th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam is more or less a conclusion of Srila Shukadeva Goswami's narration. Very short and not very detailed narration of the pastimes of Lord Ramachandra. Shukadeva Goswami was actually in a hurry. He was doubting whether the Takshaka will come before the end of Srimad Bhagavatam. So many days already passed, and now he came to the subject matter of Ramayana, which itself could occupy 7 days. So, coming to this subject matter, and knowing that ahead of him is the main subject matter of his narration, Lord Krishna, and pastimes of Lord Krishna, he kind of hurriedly said to Maharaja Parikshit, "Oh, you have heard Ramayana so many times. Again and again and again you heard the stories of Lord Ramachandra and Sita Devi and Lakshman and Hanuman in your palace. All different rishis would come and they will again and again tell this to you. So there is no need for me to tell this again. And I repeat this, you have heard this pastime so many times. Maybe not from the rishis, but from Ramayana serial. Which is not exactly the same, but still, it's a little difficult to tell the story which everyone knows, and especially such a long story. And you have to tell this story again within a very short time. So what I will do, I will stress upon the point which Shukadeva Goswami makes in this particular verse, where he wants to impress upon us what is the real glory of Lord Ramachandra. What really constitutes his glory, because while reading the pastimes of Lord Ramachandra, or contemplating about pastimes of Lord Ramachandra, we can read these narrations from different angles. And according to our angle of vision, we will see certain pastimes, and definitely all these different angles of vision, they are legitimate. We can read Ramayana, by looking at Lord Ramachandra as the Supreme Lord who is manifesting his glories and his might. Or we can read Ramayana from different points of view. So here, Shukadev Goswami gives us the hint how we should read Ramayana and how we should read Krishna Charita, which is being described in the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. How we should read the whole Srimad Bhagavatam. What would be the most beneficial way of reading these narrations and contemplating about these narrations. He says, Na idam yashora gupateh suraya chanaya. He said, no, this is not the real glory. Na idam yashaha of Raghupati. That by being cast by the suras, by the demigods, that he Rakshavadaha, he became the murderer or killer of Rakshasa. No, this is not his real glory. If you want to read Ramayana from this point of view, how Lord Ramachandra is punishing the wicked Ravana who made the whole world cry, you can do it. But here Shukadev Goswami says, no, naidam yashaha. This is not his glory. This is not the proper angle from which we should try to understand or really understand the essence, what Ramayana wants to tell us, what Lord Ramachandra wants to tell us when he comes here. He says, no, this is not his real glory. Jaladhi bandhanam Astrapunga, he said, it's not his real glory that he arrested Jaladhi bandhanam, arrested the ocean and made the ocean surrender to him and made the whole bridge over the ocean. It's such a, superhuman feat to create the bridge over ocean. Still, the remains of this bridge is there, and still there are floating rocks which constituted this ocean. And this is amazing, and you can again try to understand the glory of Lord Ramachandra by this amazing achievement. But Shukadev Goswami said, no. Kim tasya shatruhanane kapayach sahayaha. What to speak about, some monkeys helping him to win over this war? Is it his real glory that he, gathered the band of monkeys, and these monkeys made some mischief in Lanka because they wanted to take some bananas from the garden? No, this is not his real glory. So what is his real glory? If you superficially read this verse, then you will read that his real glory, adhika samya vimukta dhamnah, that nobody is equal to him. And nobody is adhika, nobody is greater than him. Adhika samya vimukta dhamnah, his dhamna, his power, his energy, his influence is so great that nobody is equal to him. This is his real glory? No. No, this is not his real glory. This is not what Shukadev Goswami wants to tell us in this verse. He says, what is his real glory? That despite that nobody is equal to him, and nobody is greater to him. What he does, attalila tanoho. He accepts the body which is constitute of his lila. He takes the body which is suitable to his lila. And in which manner he takes this body which is suitable to his lila? Atta. Atta means perfectly accepts, completely accepts. Not just partially accepts, not like an actor on the stage. Actor on the stage, he kind of transforms into somebody else and he is acting and shows, but at the same time he thinks what my wife is cooking for me for the dinner. No, it's not like Lord Ramachandra. When Lord Ramachandra accepted this body, he didn't accept it partially. He was completely immersed into this rasa of his pastime. And because of this immersion of Lord Ramachandra into his pastimes, we still read about these pastimes and we becoming immersed into these pastimes as well. So Srila Prabhupada explains this in the purport that his real glory is that because of the compassion and love to his devotees, he accepts this body which is suitable to his pastimes, and he conducts his glorious activities to please himself and to please devotees. He is himself taking pleasure in this. Srila Prabhupada says this, to please himself and them, he sometimes agrees to act as a human being and performs wonderful uncommon pastimes for the satisfaction of his devotees. So that's the real angle of vision. When we read Ramayana, we have to understand how Lord Ramachandra himself is experiencing his pastimes, what he experiencing this. And by reading this or hearing these pastimes from this angle of vision, we will be able to experience the same emotions. The reflection of his emotions, his rasa, come to us. And while experiencing the same emotions, we will be able to conquer over the bondage of karma. That's the only way to conquer over the bondage of karma, just by reading or hearing the pastimes of Lord Ramachandra. Lilayatena vitanoti jayatya jasram. In Brahma Samhita it is said that, that the Lord comes here to conquer over our hearts. Jayatya jasram, lilayatena. He conducts his pastimes in such a way that to conquer over our hearts back to him, and when we contemplate on these pastimes, when we remember about these pastimes, then the knots of our karma will become loosened, and ultimately we will become free from this bondage of karma. Srila Sukadeva Goswami will say this in a couple verses after that. He will say a very beautiful and very important verse. The verse number 23. Purusho Ramacharitam Shravanaihi Upadharayan Andri Shamsya Parorajan Karma Bandhair Vimute. He says it's basically we are supposed to gain, and the way how we're supposed to gain this, the result after reading or hearing Srimad Bhagavatam. Purusho Ramacharita, the somebody, Purushaha, who reads this Ramacharitam, Shravanaihi, or hears, rather hears Raman Charitam, Upadharayan, again and again and again, by hearing this, by this method, Andri Samsya Para Rajan, O king, he become Andri Samsya. He become non-envious, he become free from the disease of malice. We all have this envy, the deeply rooted disease that we are we are wishing bad to other people. Srila Prabhupada, commenting on this verse, he says that even in spiritual, here in this material world, everyone is envious to someone else. Even in the religious life, it is sometimes found that if one devotee has advanced in spiritual activities, other devotees are envious of him. Even in spiritual life, in religious life, he says, such envious devotees are not completely free from the bondage of birth and death. Basically, this disease of envy is the main cause of us remaining in this material world. And Prabhupada stresses this point, and Shukadeva Goswami stresses this point, unless and until we have even a little spark of envy within our heart, little spark of envy, it means offensive mentality. It means that we wish bad to somebody else. It means that we wish that somebody else will experience some unhappiness or some grief or some sufferings, no matter who he is. If little atom of this envy remains in our heart, this atom will bring about our new life in this material world. We have to be completely 100% free from this envy. And Shukadeva Goswami says that how to get free from this envy? There is one way to get free of this envy, completely free from this envy, completely free from this disease which is born from our ego. Prabhupada explains what is the cause of this envy. The cause of this envy is our ego. What is our ego? I am the best. And if somebody dares to be better than me, he better suffers. He should be punished for this. How dare he become better than me? Even if he is a better devotee, it's a scandal. How he can become better than me? It should not be allowed. It's something is wrong. Okay, God is there. Okay, no problem. I'm his servant. But, I'm the best servant. I should be the best. Everyone should recognize this. So, and therefore, this envy appears within our heart. And actually, this disease of envy is karma bandha. Is the bondage of karma. And Shukadeva Goswami here, he says very clearly that there is only one way to get rid of this deeply rooted disease within our heart, is to read again and again the pastimes of Lord Krishna, to read again and again the pastimes of the Lord, to read again and again pastimes of the Lord Ramachandra, and other pastimes described in Srimad Bhagavatam. This should be our attention. This is how this sadhana works. We should very clearly understand what is the end result of this sadhana. The end result of this sadhana is just by reading about this and understanding the protection of the Lord. Srila Prabhupada explains this in the purport to the second verse which I read, is that just by understanding that the Lord is loving us, that Lord already loves us and protects us in all regards, and understanding how the Lord himself sacrifices everything for our sake while experiencing his love. This is the only way how we can get rid of envy. Why we are envious? Because we didn't experience enough love. Because we are lacking of this experience of love. But when we experience unconditioned love of the Supreme Lord and his readiness to sacrifice everything for our sake, for the sake of each and every one of us, then we will be free from envy. Why should we envy anyone? I am loved by the Lord, and he is also loved by the Lord. It's not a mistake. It's not a mistake. He is not supposed only to love me. He's loving everyone, and that's good. That's very good. He's loving me, and he's loving Suvarna Gaurahari, and Yashwant, and Vanamale Govinda, and everyone else. He's loving every single one. And therefore, we should be loving everyone as well. Why should we envy anyone? It is specifically said here, Anrisamsya Paraha. Anrisamsya Paraha. While reading Ramayana and pastimes of Lord Ramachandra, how it works, by understanding his real glory, how he is so compassionate, that he is ready to take this pastime for our sake, we become Anrisamsya Paraha, inclined not to inflict pain to anyone. Anrisamsya literally means inflicting pain, wishing bad to somebody. So, Anrisamsya Paraha, let Svasyasta Vishwasya Kalach Prasidatam, let everyone will be happy. Even Kalu, even the most wicked people in this world. This is the real attitude of a devotee. And this attitude comes when we live through the pastimes of Lord Ramachandra. So what is the pastime of Lord Ramachandra? What is the essence of his pastime? It is explained by our acharyas that Lord Ramachandra is the embodiment of Karuna Rasa. Lord comes to this world and he displays in his pastimes different rasas, so that we, by reading about these different rasas, can get the emotional satisfaction. Lord is rasa, raso vaisaha. And while reading about this rasa, we experience spiritual emotions, spiritual rasas. And by experiencing spiritual emotions, we will be able to conquer over the material emotions which we have, out of which envy is the most prominent one. So there is only one way to conquer over material emotions, which is the bondage. The real bondage of this world is the emotions. We are attached to emotions. We are emotional being. We are not rational. We may pretend being rational, but ultimately our intelligence is guided by the powerful force of our emotions. Everything which we do is actually guided by emotions. Rational is just a little bit, well, little rational. On the surface, we're rational. If we scratch a little bit, we will understand. I'm just emotional. Somebody says something to us. And we can preach to ourselves that, he's a part and parcel of God, he's good, he's just full number one, but ultimately within his heart he is good. But it doesn't work. We're hurt. Emotion is there. We can preach, I should, he's bad. How you can say that he's good, he's against me. So we're emotional. How to conquer our emotions? We should read all these books and pastimes in such a way that we will be able also to experience the same emotions. So every incarnation of God comes with a particular rasa. The message which every incarnation brings about is to invoke this rasa within ourselves. And by experiencing this rasa, we will be able to understand how nice it is in the spiritual world. Spiritual world is not a boring place. It's not a, Brahman, finally I'm here, relieved from all these burdens. No, it's the place which is full of emotions. And Krishna, that's the main message of Srimad Bhagavatam, he's a Akhila Rasamrita Murti. He himself embodies all the emotions. Every other incarnation brings about or, invokes only one emotion. But Krishna invokes all emotions. It's, how you say this? All in one. You don't have to go to too many places. It's just supermarket of emotions. You don't have to go to this shop or to that shop. You just go to supermarket. You buy everything you need. So in one place, that's Krishna. He is Akhila Rasamrita Murti. He is the embodiment of all the rasas. every other incarnation is the manifestation of an emotion, certain emotion. Like, for example, Nrisimhadev, he is an incarnation of which emotion? Huh? No. He is the incarnation of Vatsalya Rasa. When you read the 7th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, you should read the 7th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam from this point of view. When he puts Prahlad Maharaj and he starts licking his head by his tongue, lion-like tongue, you know, he licked this little Prahlad Maharaj, and he was begging forgiveness. My dear son, you suffered so much. Dear Prahlad Maharaj didn't have fatherly love from Hiranyakashipu, but he got motherly love from Nrisimhadev. Nrisimhadev was this manifestation of motherly love, and he was treating himself as his child. And at that moment, all the childhood traumas of Prahlad Maharaj were healed by the excess of Vatsalya Rasa which he experienced. That's the real manifestation of this. And then Raudra Rasa is it's Parashuram. Parashuram was so angry he couldn't stop. He was killing all the Kshatriyas again and again and again, 21 times or 22. He probably himself lost the count how many times he killed them. So that was Raudra Rasa. He's the manifestation of Raudra Rasa. And Varahadev, he is the manifestation of Bhayankara Rasa. When he entered the ocean started trembling. That's the manifestation of this rasa. And Lord Balaram, he is a manifestation of Hasya Rasa. He's always joking with Krishna. So that's his specialty. That's his rasa which he brings about or invokes in our heart. But Lord Ramachandra is the manifestation of Karuna Rasa. He's the manifestation of compassion, of pathos, of karuna. Is the manifestation of this grief. Actually, in the spiritual world, any emotion becomes purifying. You know, in the material world, grief is not very commendable or good emotion. Lord Krishna chastises Arjuna in the beginning of Bhagavad Gita. He says, you know, you're fool. Why are you a fool? Because you're grieving. You have this shoka. Shoka is not something which you should experience. You're Brahmana. If you experience shoka, it means you're Shudra. If you ever experience grief, it means you're Shudra. Welcome. Congratulations. We're Shudra. If we ever experience this shoka emotion, we're Shudras. But Lord Ramachandra, he always experienced shoka. And he wants us to experience shoka with him. But his grief, the grief of Lord Ramachandra over his Sita Devi, over so many other activities, it's just purifying grief. And if we really learn how to experience this grief of Lord Ramachandra, we will be completely purified from the tendency to experience material grief. Oh, I'm so unlucky. You know, my wife. No, you know, I don't have wife. Oh, my wife is so bad, or something like this. You know, why Ravana didn't kidnap my wife? Why he kidnapped Sita? But you know, because you're not Lord Ramachandra, that's the answer to this question. But actually, the grief of Lord Ramachandra is purifying. Actually, this is the the beginning of Ramayana. What is the beginning of Ramayana? It is said that, when Valmiki Muni saw these crauncha birds engaged in their loving pastimes, and at that time a cruel hunter killed one crauncha bird, and the other crauncha bird started lamenting over the loss of his wife, and crying piteously. At that time, Valmiki Muni, he composed the first shloka of Ramayana. It is said that his shoka became shloka. The whole Ramayana, this is a very important episode for us to understand Ramayana. Ramayana is to invoke shoka in us. Because the whole Ramayana came from this episode, how material life is ultimately tragic. That's a very important lesson of Ramayana. Our life in this material world is tragic from beginning to end. And even when the Lord himself comes to this world, his life has also become tragic. It's full of tragedy, full of pathos, full of this emotion. But if we meditate on the pastimes of Lord Ramachandra, how he experienced his grief, how he went through all these tests and trials and tribulations, experiencing grief as much as we experience the grief, even more, but at the same time being completely composed and true to his word and to his duty. How he did this, then this experience of Lord Ramachandra will free us from this tendency to grieve over completely useless and trivial things in this world. Usually, if we consider why we are grieving in this world, it's really insignificant. It's really insignificant. But it becomes such a drama. I know it myself on my own experience. It becomes such a drama. Little fly becomes a big elephant. But I have a good opportunity to see how other people, they take, some little thing and blow it out of proportion and becomes completely absorbed in this grief. So what happened with Lord Ramachandra, basically we should see how he experienced his grief. We should grieve together with him. And this grief will be purifying because we will follow the plight of Lord Ramachandra and meditate upon this. It's actually very interesting. Manacharya explains why Valmiki Muni does not reveal in his Ramayana the secret that Sita actually was not kidnapped. The real Sita was not kidnapped. The real Sita was safely in Agni Loka, in some of the heavenly planets of this universe. She was meditating on Lord Rama there, because Agni Dev snatched her away while she was crossing this line, Lakshmana Rekha. And then Agni Dev brought her back during this Agni Pariksha. So this is explained in Agni Puran. And we know that Lord Chaitanya, he even brought this Agni Puran to this Brahmin in South India, because Brahmin in South India, he just couldn't tolerate this whole thing. But Vanacharya explains why Valmiki Muni doesn't explain this. He says the reason is exactly this, to invoke Karuna in our heart. Because when we know, oh yeah, this was not real Sita. It was just some mannequin, some puppet Sita. No, but this is not the purpose of Valmiki Muni. Valmiki Muni wants us to believe that this was real Sita. Because Lord Ramachandra himself, he didn't sit in Ayodhya or in Kishkinda and he didn't think that, oh, Sita is safely in Agni Loka. No, he was himself grieving over the plight of Sita. And this illusory Sita, it doesn't matter whether she was illusory or not, but she was crying day and night. She was crying day and night and she was chanting Ram, 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 Ram. And Lord Ramachandra at the same time was sitting in his cave in Kishkinda and he was crying and he was chanting in his beads, Sita, 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 He Sita, Ha Sita, Ha Sita, Sita, Sita. Still, if you go to Kishkinda, etc., to Hampi, you will see this deity of Lord Ram with the beads. Lord Ram is sitting there in this cave and he was chanting Sita, 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 Sita. How he was grieving, how he was going mad in separation with Sita. He didn't think at that time, I know, this is just, this is just a little puppet show, for some others. No, he was there. He was experiencing this grief. And we should really follow Valmiki Ramayana. Therefore, it is said that we should not follow Agni Purana Ramayana. We should follow Valmiki Ramayana, which is the real Ramayana. Or we should follow Shukadev Goswami Ramayana, understanding what Shukadev Goswami wants to say us. And Shukadev Goswami is exactly saying this in these verses. We should understand that's the real glory of the Lord. Because of his compassion, he performs his pastimes perfectly. And by performing his pastimes, Lilayatena Bhuvanani Jayata Jasram, what is this? Okay. Vismritam. Smaratamupetya. Okay. Forget this verse. Anyway. So, Svabhaktanam Vinodartham, it is said in Padma Purana that why Krishna comes to this world. He didn't come to kill Ravana. He could send coronavirus to kill Ravana. Or some other virus. If coronavirus wouldn't work, he could send somebody else to kill Ravana. He doesn't need to come to kill Ravana. He doesn't need to perform this for he's doing it incidentally. He comes to experience Karuna Ras himself and give us the experience of the same Karuna Ras while we are meditating, while we are, while all these pastimes are reflecting within our consciousness, within our heart. This is what we should do. This is what we're supposed to do. Therefore, I wanted to tell just one episode of Ramayana. Little episode, which is one of the most dramatic episodes of Ramayana. That was introduction to the whole lecture. But just little episode, of course, the whole Ramayana is full of this emotion. But I'll try to tell this episode of how Ram was banished into the exile. And how he was behaving, how Sita was behaving at that time, how Lakshmana was behaving at that time, how Kaikeyi was behaving at that time, how Dasharat was behaving at that time. So we all, of course, know this episode, but the real purpose of this episode is to invoke Karuna Ras. What is Karuna Ras? The Karuna Ras is the knowers of Rasa Shastra. They explain that Karuna Ras comes when we do something which or when somebody, Karuna Rasa is invoked, when we see that somebody is doing something for the sake of others. When somebody is depriving himself of the comforts and pleasures and enjoyments of life for the sake of others. At that time, when we see this, when we see what he experienced this, what he feels at that time, how he, despite of having the opportunity to enjoy in this life, he still nevertheless sacrifices himself. Then the Karuna Rasa invokes, is being invoked in our heart, how people are doing this for others. And that's a very important lesson, because again, why Sukadeva Goswami says that by hearing Ramayana again and again and again, we will be free from this envy, from this desire to inflict pain to others, because we will develop the same spirit of self-sacrifice, doing something, not allowing others to experience even slight pain at the expense of ourselves. We're doing this. If we learn how to do this, then the disease of envy will be finished. We will be completely free from this envy, because we will experience this much higher emotions. So we all know this story, and I will try to explain it again. We all know the story, actually it started when Dasharatha started seeing bad omens. Everywhere, whenever he would see, and all the people in Vedic culture, they knew the signs of omens. It's called Nimitta Shastra. They knew, his left eye was tweaking, and he always heard the cries of crows, and the jackals were, sometimes were doing their kirtan in a very piteous way. And, and sometimes he would see the donkey, and the bad dreams would come to him. He would see himself sitting in a donkey, going to the south direction. And he looked in his chart. He knew the signs of astrology, and he understood that very soon his death is coming. And he remembered at that time the curse of Shravan Kumar's father, who before dying cursed him, and he said that as much as I am dying in separation with my son, in your old age, you will also die in separation with your son. So he designed a plan. He knew that this curse will definitely happen. Nothing will avert this curse. So he thought that I will go myself into exile. I will go to forest. And then in the forest, I will die in separation with my son. This is how he wanted to fulfill this curse. And he said, that will be a very noble way. I will crown my son Ram, and he will become happy. And with peaceful heart, I will leave the palace at night. Nobody will see me, and I will go to the forest, and meditating on my son in separation with him, I will leave this body because my time has come. So very hastily and quickly he started doing some arrangements, and at that time Bharata and Shatrughna were away from Ayodhya. And that was part of his plan. Actually, he remembered that he promised to the father of Kaikeyi that her son will become the king. Actually, one of his, well, maybe not anarthas, but whatever. One of his qualities which he experienced again and again and again was that he was too quick to give promises. Many times in his life, he experienced this. When Vishwamitra Muni came to his palace, he said, "Oh yeah, please ask me everything, whatever you like. I will fulfill all your desires." And then Vishwamitra Muni says, "Okay, give me ram." He said, "No, not ram, not ram." And then Vishwamitra Muni said, "Yeah, okay, I'm a beggar. I am not in a position to demand. I will go back, and you remain here, famous of your ability to follow your word, to follow your promise. You may rule your kingdom, being very famous of being Satyavadi. This will be your glory." And of course, Dasharat, he said, "Okay, let me reconsider." Anyway, so many times he very hastily promised that I fulfill any of your desires. And therefore, while he was contemplating on this, he was thinking on putting Ram on the throne of Ayodhya. He was thinking, what if Bharat will claim the throne instead? Because it was an open secret. Everyone knew that that was the promise of King Dasharatha to Ashwapati, the father of Kaikeyi, that I will make your son the prince. And he was thinking, of course, Bharat is such a loyal follower of Lord Ramachandra, but who knows what will happen within his heart? You never know. So it's better to be safe than sorry. Let him be away from Ayodhya, and we will make all these arrangements. So he had his doubts. That's one of the very important lessons of the whole Ramayana. Please listen very carefully. This is a very important lesson. Why do we have doubts? Sometimes we start doubting without a reason. Ramachandra, Dasharatha was doubting Bharata. Kaikeyi was doubting Ram. Mandhara, we will explain this a little later. And Lakshmana was doubting Bharata as well. Lakshmana was saying, "Let us kill Bharata. He's coming here with his army. He probably wants to finish you off while you are disarmed. Let's kill him beforehand. I will go and do it." Why? Because of this little spark of envy. Krishna himself explains this in Bhagavad Gita. He explains in the fourth chapter of Bhagavad Gita, he explains why we have doubts. He says that the doubtful soul does not have peace either in this world or in another world. He says, "Samsayatma vinashyati." Samsayatma. And then he explains, why do we have doubts? We have doubts because of some hidden desires within our heart. And these hidden desires within our heart makes us doubtful. So the same thing, little spark of impurity within our heart manifests as a doubt. So this little impurity manifested as a doubt in the mind of King Dasharatha. And ultimately that was a very bad mistake, which he did. So he started making all this arrangement. He called Vasishtha Muni, and he said this beautiful month of Chaitra, which is very beneficial and auspicious, has come. And tomorrow is the Pushya Nakshatra. Yeah, tomorrow is the Pushya Nakshatra. Today is Punarvasa Nakshatra, the day of Lord Ramachandra. The Pushya Nakshatra is a very auspicious Nakshatra. So let's make all the arrangements, let's do this. And Vasishtha Muni, his priest, he said, "Oh, you know astrology so well. Very good, very good. Sadhu, sadhu. Yes, this is the best day to make this crown ceremony, and you're so wise. This is the best arrangement. This Vasishtha Muni, he became so happy. He ran away from the palace and he started gathering all his disciples, and he said, the best news is there. Tomorrow we will crown Lord Ramachandra. And he will become our king, and then this news spread all over the city of Ayodhya like a forest fire. Everyone was rejoicing, everyone was making kirtan, everyone was started decorating the houses, putting some illumination, and all the banana trees, and everyone was busy, and everyone knew it, but few people didn't know it. Those people who were supposed to know it, they didn't know it because somehow or other it was supposed to happen the way it happened. And so, just 1 second. So after speaking with Vasishtha Muni, in his presence, Dasharatha Maharaj called Ramachandra. And Ramachandra came to him, he bowed down, he made his full dandavat, prostrated dandavat obeisances, and he said, "Oh my dear father, oh my dear king, please tell me what I can do for you." And in a very solemn voice, in a very happy voice, choked with emotions, choked with tears, Maharaja Dasharatha said, "My dear son, I'm too old, I'm quite weak now, and I decided to give the whole kingdom to you, and tomorrow please be prepared. Please fast this night with your wife Sita. You should fast to purify yourself. Tomorrow there will be grand ceremony, grand ritual. You will sit on the throne and there will be Raja Abhishek given to you by the priests, and Vasishtha Muni will make all the arrangements for the elaborate ritual, and it will be the happiest day in my life. Tomorrow will be the happiest day of my life." Little did he know that tomorrow will be the most dramatic day in his life. This is how it works. This is how we are. We think that tomorrow will be the happiest day in our life. And what will happen tomorrow, we don't know. Something really anishta, something really inauspicious may happen to us. So he went to his bedroom, but he couldn't sleep. The bad thoughts were there, and he just couldn't fall asleep. He was just whirling in the bed, and he again called Ramachandra, and he said, "My dear son, please understand me. We should do it very quickly because I have some bad feelings. So please be prepared. The first thing in the morning, early in the morning, as soon as possible, we will do the ceremony. I want to do it by all means, even before the sunrise. When the auspicious time of Brahma Muhurta will start, on this auspicious moment, we will start celebrating your Raja Abhishek, and you will be crowned as the king of Ayodhya. And with peaceful heart, I will live the rest of my life." So he became a little pacified, because he thought, I made all the arrangements, everything will be proper, everything is there. Because that's the nature of the mind. The mind wants to control everything. So the mind only becomes peaceful when everything is under control. And when we feel that something which is beyond our control will happen to us, the mind becomes crazy. The mind just goes here and there and drills, how come? So he pacified himself by making all the arrangements. I did everything, and he was again and again and again thinking, what else can I do to make sure that this happened? This is how the mind works. And Lord Ramachandra, he came to Sita Devi and he said, Sita, he first came to Kaushalya and he said, my dear mother, I have something to tell you which will make you very happy. And the mother said, what? Tell me, my son. And she said, my father wants to crown me tomorrow. And she said, yeah, this is the best news I ever heard. Thank you, my dear son, my austerity. At that time, Kaushalya was sitting in front of the deity of Lord Narayana, and she was meditating. And when Lord Ramachandra came to this room, to the chamber, to the temple room in the palace of Kaushalya, he saw that the tears gliding from her eyes. She was so intensely praying to the Lord for the protection of her son. And when Lord Ramachandra came and announced this news, she embraced him and she started crying and she said, all my prayers fulfilled now, all my desires of my life fulfilled, and all my austerities which I performed throughout my life is now giving the fruit. Thank you very much. And she became very happy. And then Lord Ramachandra came to Sita Devi and he said, Sita Devi, tomorrow you will become the queen of Ayodhya. You will be sitting with me on the throne and people will worship you. And Sita Devi said, my dear Lord, Aryaputra, my dear husband, I'm worshiping you. I don't care whether somebody is worshipping me or not. I am already happy. But if you will be happy to sit on this throne, I will be happily sitting next to you. I will be with you and we will, and I will help you in this capacity if you want me to do this. So he started fasting, and all the people in Ayodhya, they were decorating their houses and, doing all these arrangements. And as we know, Manthara, she saw these preparations. And she asked the nurse of Lord Ramachandra, please tell me, what is the festivities going on? What is this bustle and all this commotion in the city? What kind of festival we're going to celebrate tomorrow? And the nurse of Lord Ramachandra said, you don't know? Oh, how lucky you are. You still don't know, so you will have this amazing news to hear now. You will be so happy to hear this news. Tomorrow, Lord Ramachandra will become our king. And he will be crowned. And Manthara, when she heard this, she had to force her lips to make some sort of smile so that nobody would understand what's happening within her heart, because the whole hurricane of envy started there. How is that possible? And with this envy in her heart, she came to Kankei, to her queen. And she saw Kankei, she was very happy. Kankei was sitting in front of her mirror and she was decorating herself. And Manthara started crying, you foolish woman, what are you doing? You're just decorating yourself. Tomorrow will be the last day of your life. You don't know the news, you foolish woman. And Kankei was in a very pleasant mood, and she said, Manthara, why are you so angry? Please, cool down. Tell me what's happening. I am a loved wife of my husband, and everything is so nice. And Manthara started saying, you don't know. Tomorrow, Ram, not Bharat, Ram, not your son, Ram, the son of Kaushalya, will be crowned as the king. And Kaikeyi became so happy. She said, thank you very much for this news. This is the best news I ever heard. This is the best jewel I have. Please take Manhara for bringing me this news. And Manhara, she took this jewel and she smashed it on the floor. And she said, you stupid woman, you don't understand what happens. Don't you know that Kaushalya is envious of you? And because Kaikeyi was envious to Kaushalya, she believed it. Again, when we are envious to somebody, a little spark of envy will be projected on the whole world. This little slide. Kaikeyi was very pure-hearted. She loved Lord Ram more than her own son. She could not be dissuaded from her love to Lord Ram by saying that Lord Ram is bad, because she loved him. But she had little envy to Kaushalya, as natural for co-wives, and perhaps to some other people as well. So she was little, and Manhara immediately understood she is hooked. And she started saying, now you're the queen. Tomorrow you will become the maidservant. Tomorrow you will serve as the maidservant. You will do the menial service in the palace of Kaushalya. You will be, and people will deride you. And people will point at you and will say, look at this Kaikeyi. She was the favorite queen of Dasharatha. What is she doing now? You know, now she's just the neglected maidservant in the palace of Kaushalya. You know, and she started hammering this point again and again and again and again. And what will happen with Bharata? For sure, Ram, you know, when the fire of envy was ignited in Kaikeyi's heart, you know, then Manhara felt free to exaggerate this whole thing, because the fire was already there. She was starting saying bad things about Ramachandra. He said, Ramachandra, for sure, he will bend your son, Bharat, into the forest. And probably he will even kill Bharat. And the more she was saying these outrageous things, the more Kaikeyi was believing it. Please, listen very carefully. That's not about Kaikeyi, that's about us. If we have little envy within our heart, it's so easy to ignite this envy. It's so easy. We hear something bad, or we read something bad from the internet, and yes, of course, I knew it all the time. You know, Kaikeyi within just couple of hours of brainwashing, she was completely turned. Her whole mood, you know, she completely forgot her love to Lord Ramachandra. And then she looked at this envious witch, Manhara, as her savior. She said, you're the best hunchback woman I ever seen. When I become the queen, I will make you the queen of all hunchback women. All other hunchback women, I will make sure that they are your maidservants. And when I become the queen, I will take the golden chain, massive golden chain, and I will decorate your hunch with this golden chain. And she said, your hump is the embodiment of all the political wisdom in the world. Now I know why you're humped. Because all the intrigues and all the politics are there. And this wisdom is there in your hump. This is how she glorified Manthara. This loving Kaikeyi, she glorified Manthara in an outrageous way. She became totally dependent on her. She said, please tell me what is the best way, how I should fulfill my desires. And now I'm completely convinced. Tell me. And Manthara said, oh, don't you remember? You are just very silly woman. You already forget what you told me. Because long back, Kaikeyi confided to Manthara. She didn't tell it to anyone. That was the secret between the husband and wife. And the secret between the husband and wife is not supposed to be spread all over the place. The only one whom she confided was Manthara. Why? Because she was proud. Kaikeyi was proud. She wanted to say, oh, my husband loves me so much, and I helped him. I saved him from this Sambara demon, Sambarasura, and because of his gratitude, because I nurtured him so much and I healed his wounds, he promised to me that he will fulfill to my desires. And I told him, yeah, I don't need anything. I'm happy. I don't need anything now. But maybe sometime in the future I will need something. Then I will ask. So Manthara said, you silly woman, you will forget this. Now you have something to do. Now Dasharatha will be you. Now you go there. But please be determined. Go till the end. Dasharatha will promise to you that he will give you something, that he will give you the whole land. Don't listen to him. Don't believe him until he promises to you that he will do these two things, that he will put Bharata on the throne of Ayodhya, your son, and until he banishes Lord Ram for 14 years in the forest. And Manthara said, you think it's a coincidence that he wants to do this coronation ceremony tomorrow while your son is not here? Don't you see the plot of your husband behind this? He sent Bharata and Shatrughna away to your, under some pretext. And now he, all of a sudden, hastily, without any preparations, he wants to do this coronation ceremony. Why is this? And Kaikeyi started thinking, yeah, she must be true. This is how it works. This is how envy works within our heart. This is what we should learn from this episode of this. And, and Manthara gave the whole scenario of play to Kaikeyi, what she should do. She should go to this Kopa Bhavan, to this anger chamber, and she should take off all the decorations, and she should put the plain sari, and she should not look in the face of her husband when the husband came. And, after speaking with Lord Ramachandra, Dasharatha came to Kaikeyi. Kaikeyi was his favorite wife. She was the youngest wife, she was the most pretty, and he loved her so much. So because he had this bad feeling, he thought he will forget about this feeling, bad feelings, while being with his wife. That his wife will dissipate all these thoughts which are there and these bad feelings. So he came, but he couldn't find his wife in the bedroom. He couldn't find his wife anywhere, and ultimately he came to this Kopa Bhavan, and he saw his wife lying on the floor. And he said, oh, my dear wife, Kaikeyi, my dear favorite wife, why you are lying on the floor? Somebody offended you. Somebody did something wrong to you. Please tell me. I will punish this offender immediately. And Kaikeyi said, no. She, in a very humble way, very humble voice, she said, no, to invoke the Karuna Ras in the heart of Dasharatha. No, nobody offended me, It's just some grief is there within my heart. And only you will be able to dissipate this grief. And Dasharat, he started crying. Please tell me what I can do to dissipate your grief. I am ready to do anything. I promise. She said, I'll tell you, but first promise to me that you will do whatever I desire. And Dasharat said, of course, my dear wife. Well, that's his habit. Of course I'll do it. Whatever you desire. Don't hesitate for a moment. Please tell me, my dear wife, I will do everything. And she said, I am invoking the presence of sun and the moon. Let them be the witness. I am invoking the presence of the fire. All the 10 directions are the witness of your word. You said it yourself. You promised to fulfill all my desires. Her tone of voice became different. She was not invoking the pittiness anymore. She started speaking with a completely different voice to him. You cannot go back to your word. You're Kshatriya. Kshatriya are not supposed to go back to your word. You promised to me that you will fulfill my desires. I only have 2 desires, and you anyway promised to me long back that you will fulfill 2 my desires. Here's my 2 desires. Tomorrow you will, or whenever the opportunity will be, you will crown my son Bharata as the king, and you will banish Lord Ram for 14 years into the forest. This is my desire. These are 2 my desires. You should do this. Dasharat, he couldn't believe his ears. He started pinching his ears. He said, am I dreaming? What's happening? Please tell me that this is not real, that this is something, that this is some illusion. Please tell me how you can say this. I know how you love Lord Ram. I know that you love Lord Ram more than Bharat. How you can say this? And Kaikeyi started laughing. I know your plot. I know what you did. I know because, you sent my son Bharata to his father, to his grandfather. You sent him away to my brother and to my father. So, you want to coronate tomorrow Lord Ram. So you should promise to me now that you will do this. And then Dasharat, he fainted. And then when he came back to his senses, he again started pinching himself. He said, tell me that this was just a dream, just a mirage, that's something, which was not real. And she said, no, you heard everything properly. Tomorrow you will have to banish Lord Ram to the forest. Tomorrow. Dasharat started crying. He said, okay, I agree to coronate your son. But why should you banish Lord Ram? I'm sure if I tell Lord Ram that Bharata will be the king, he will be happy. He will become very happy and he will assist your son to be the ruler, to be the king. He will become the most loyal follower and servant of Bharat. Why should you banish him, you wicked woman? She said, because this is my desire. You have to do it, no matter what. He was trying this way and that way and this way and that way. Nothing worked. He realized that she will go to the end. He explained to her what will happen to you. All the people will leave Ayodhya together with Lord Ram. You will be ruling this Ayodhya alone with your son. Nobody will be there. I will be there. Everyone will leave Ayodhya. She was relentless. She was just going her way. She couldn't just even hear any reason or whatever. She just knew, should be done. This is how she was programmed by by Manthara. She was totally, completely programmed by Manthara. It should be my way, not any other way. So what happened next? Dasharatha, he fainted. And he was unconscious for the rest of the night, but early in the morning, and she was rejoicing her triumph. And early in the morning, Sumantra came, the minister of Dasharatha. And Sumantra, when he came to the palace of Kaikeyi, Dasharatha was lying in a semi-conscious state, half conscious, half asleep or whatever. And then, as usually, the heralds came and started glorifying Dasharatha, started glorifying, this is the way how the kings would wake up from their bed. And they were heralding his glories. And Dasharatha, it was intolerable for him to hear this. He closed his eyes, his ears, he sent away this, he was very angry at them. Stop this, stop this, stop this. He was completely devastated. And then Sumantra came, and Sumantra started glorifying Dasharatha. Because this is what is supposed to be, The minister comes, and first thing he starts glorifying the king and saying, this is your glory, and this is glory, this is your glory. And the Dasharatha, he became so angry. He said, get out of here. I don't want to see your face. Get out of here. Don't say this, because every word which you say inflicts such pain to my heart that, nothing is such unbearable as the pain which you inflict. And Sumantra couldn't understand what's going on. He thought maybe my master couldn't have a good sleep before the coronation ceremony. Therefore, he's so unhappy. Why he's so angry? And then Kaikeyi, she smiled. And she looked at Sumantra and she said, your father is not in a very good mood today. He had a little rough night. That's why. So you please go and bring Lord Ram. He wants to tell Lord Ram what are the last arrangements which he had done for his coronation. That's what she said, this woman. In a very crooked way, she said, you please go and bring Lord Ram. And Sumantra looked at Dasharatha. He said, why this woman is telling me what to do? I'm not her servant, I'm your servant. Please tell me whether I should bring Lord Ram or not. And Dasharatha, he cried, get out of here. Bring Ram here immediately. So Sumantra, he couldn't understand what's going on. What is madhouse? What is there? So he went to Lord Ram, and Lord Ram was sitting with his wife, Sita. And Sumantra said, your father is calling you. Your father is with his wife, Kaikeyi, with his favorite wife, Kaikeyi. And they want to tell you what are the last arrangements for your coronation. And Lord Ram, he became very joyful, and he said, addressing to Sita, oh, my dear Sita, my dear wife, I'm sure my father wants to tell me some good news that coronation is all the way. And I'm sure Mother Kaikeyi, she must be so happy now. She must be so immensely happy. That's why they're calling me. They want to celebrate this occasion. They want to congratulate me with this. Oh, Sita, very soon I will come to you with the good news. You please wait for me, and I will go. And he took Lakshman with him, and Lakshman was following him, because Lakshman was following Lord Ram as the shadow. He would not he would not leave Lord Ram for a second. So he went together with him, and I came to the palace of Kaikeyi, and Dasharat was there, and Dasharat was, he was sitting with his face cast down, and he was only chanting Ram, 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 Ram. And the tears were gliding his cheeks, Ram, Ram. And he couldn't, when Ramachandra came and bowed down to Dasharat, Dasharat didn't even look at him. He couldn't dare to look at Lord Ramachandra. Lord Ramachandra said, "My dear father, what happened with you? Usually, you would become so happy by seeing me, and I would reciprocate with your happiness. Your happiness would reflect in my heart, and I would become happy. And my happiness would reflect in your heart, and in this way there was this chain reaction of happiness. And now you don't see me. What did I do wrong? How did I offend you? Did I do something wrong? Please tell me. And if you want me to do something, tell me now. I will do whatever you like." And Dasharat was sitting there and saying, Ram, 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 Ram. And then Kaikeyi, she smiled. And she looked at Lord Ramachandra very, in a very, how you say this, obnoxious way. She looked at Ramachandra. And she said, "Your father is a little sick today, but he will become better in a few days. He wants me to say something to you which he cannot say because of his sickness. Today, you should go to forest for 14 years and stay in exile for 14 years, and my son, Bharat, will become the king of Ayodhya." Lord Ramachandra, he didn't, even one muscle didn't, his face didn't change at all. He smiled, he said, "My mother, thank you. If this is the desire of my father, I will do it. If my father will tell me to take poison today, I will do it. If my father will tell me to go to the fire, I will do it. My father now wants me to go to forest. What could be better? Yes, I will do it. I will go to forest. Thank you, my mother." So he turned away and he went away. And Dasharatha fainted. And Lord Ramachandra went away. When he agreed to this, Dasharatha fainted. He couldn't tolerate it anymore. So Ramachandra went to his mother, Kaushalya. He came to Kaushalya and he said, "My mother, I have to tell you something bad. But please don't worry, nothing really bad. It's just, it happens. This is the way of life. Today we're happy, tomorrow we're aggrieved. Today something good is happening to us, tomorrow something bad is happening to us. This is normal, nothing strange. Tomorrow I told you this good news that I'm being coronated. Today I will tell you another news. I'm not being coronated." Kaushalya said, "Why? What happened?" He said, "Oh yeah, my father changed his mind." Nothing strange, my father changed his mind. He's totally, perfectly in the position to do it. He's my father. And then he said, there is some other news which I have to tell you. She said, "What?" He said, "I'm leaving today to the forest for 14 years. Kaushalya was broken. she just fell down on the floor and started rolling and crying and saying, "My son, what happened? What happened?" And he said, "My mother can't care. She wants me to do it, and I will do it. I'm sure she's my well-wisher. She wants only good for me, so she wants to do it. So let's do it." And Kaushalya said, "My son, I'll go with you." And Ramachandra said, no, my mother. My father will die soon. He will not be able to tolerate the separation with me, I know. So you're his chaste wife, you're his first wife. You should stay with the father at this last moment of his life. You cannot leave my father now, because he's already totally, completely devastated by all this news. So now you are the only one who can give him some solace. You're the only one who can somehow or other pacify his heart. So please stay with him. And I will go to forest, and it will be very happy. And very soon, 14 years will just be like a flash of a lightning. Very soon I will come to you. I promise to you, I will come to you, and I will embrace you, and I will bow down to your feet, and we will be happy again here in Ayodhya. Don't worry. Kaushalya, crying and crying and crying, she gave the blessings to her son. Now, my son, you can go to the forest. That's why he came to her. And then he came to Sita, and Sita, she also heard the news. And Lord Ramachandra said to Sita, "Sita, you stay here. I'll go to forest for 14 years. You stay here. And you serve Kaikeyi as your mother. And you serve Kaushalya, and you serve Dasharatha. Nobody should even feel or detect any tinge of envy within your heart. I know your heart is completely pure. For 14 years you should serve, first and foremost, my mother Kaikeyi. Because I love her, and she loves me, I know this. You should serve her." And Sita said, initially she started saying, "No, I cannot do this, I will go with you." But Lord Ramachandra insisted, and she became very angry. She said, "If I knew that my husband is like this, my father, I would tell my father, don't make this mistake by giving my hand to this strange husband. How you can dare to say this to me? I cannot live with you. I'm like your shadow. Shadow cannot live without the object of which it belongs. How you say this?" And Lord Ramachandra said, "No, it will be such a hardship in the forest. It will be so difficult for you." She said, "No, it will not be difficult for me, because it will not be difficult for you. I will get your strength. I will do whatever you do, and it will not be difficult for me. I'll go with you." And Lord Ramachandra, he smiled. He said, "Okay, yes, you will go with me. No problem." And then he went to Lakshman and he said, "Lakshman, you stay here. You stay here, you will have to deal with all this mess without me." And then Lakshman says, "Forget it. I'm not going to stay here. Who you think you are? I will be with you." And then no matter what Lord Ramachandra said, Lakshman said, "No, forget it. Don't even tell this. I will go with you." So, and then Ramachandra said to go to your mother, Sumitra, and you get your blessings, because without her blessings, I will not allow you to go to the forest. So he went, he got the blessings of her mother. And then Kaikeyi called Sumantra, the father of Sumitra, the minister. And this Sumantra, he was so angry. He was so angry at Kaikeyi. He couldn't just look at her face. In the meantime, Vasishtha Muni came and he also heard the news and they were all cursing her. And this Sumantra said, "What do you want?" And she was looking at the husband, Dasharatha, who came to his senses. And she said, "He cannot speak now. But he wants now to give his blessings to Lord Ram to go to the forest and to make all the arrangements. So call Lord Ram again here." And Sumantra, and he wants to do it in front of all his 3 queens. So call Sumitra and call Kaushalya as well. They all should be present at this moment. Now, this is the auspicious moment when Lord Ramachandra is going to the forest. So Lord Ramachandra came, and she was there, and Sumitra came, and Kaushalya came, and Kaikeyi was sitting, and she was smiling. She was happy. She was, that's, all her desires are fulfilled. And she said, now you have to go to the forest now. Now, this very moment. And you should change your clothes and you should live in the forest like an ascetic. You should live in the forest like the rishi in the forest by wearing very clothes. You should, now in front of everyone, you should take off all your decorations, take off all your royal clothes, and you should put the clothes of ascetics. And when she said this, Dasharatha Maharaj, he exploded. He said, "You wicked woman! I told you, I promised to you that I will ban Ram to the forest." Yeah, he goes to the forest, but he goes to the forest in his royal attire. He will go to the forest with his army. I will send Akshuhinis of armies together with him. He will go to the forest. Yes, he will go to the forest. I will go to the forest. His old servants will go to the forest. The whole Ayodhya will go to the forest. All the merchants will go to the forest. All the brahmanas will go to the forest with him. And he will be the king there. And he will rule in the forest. And you will sit alone here. And I will see what you will do. He was really angry at her. And then Lord Ram, he smiled, and he said, "My dear father, it's not good." And yeah, Kaikeyi, she became afraid. She thought, what if it will happen? She said, my son Bharat will come, and nothing is there. How he will rule? There's no army, there is no servants, nobody is there. She became really afraid. And then she said something really outrageous. She said, no. She started quoting Shastra. She started quoting the history of the dynasty. She said, one of your forefathers, Maharaja Sagara, he had a son. His name was Asamanjasa. So his father, Sagara Maharaj, sent his son to the forest. Asamanjasa went to the forest, and his father told Asamanjasa that you should take off all your royal attire, you should take off all the decorations on your body, and you should wear the simple clothes of an ascetic. So this is the example, this is the praman. You should follow your forefathers. You cannot do something. When she said this, one of the other ministers which were there, everyone became outraged. Everyone became completely dumb because they couldn't say this, because this Asamanjasa was such a cruel person. He would drown his playmates in the river. He was too much. Everyone hated him. And ultimately all the citizens came to Maharaja Sagar and he said, you do something with this son. You burn him to the forest, and his father, being angry with his son, sent him to the forest. So this minister of King Dasharatha, he started yelling at Kaikeyi, you stupid woman, how you can compare Lord Ram with a Samanjasa? How you can say this, that he should be banned to the forest, is the same way as a Samanjasa was sent? Who you think you are? How offensive you are? You know, this is how mad one can become due to offenses. You know, one offense breeds offenses. You do one offense and then, you know, you get used to it. And you become more and more offensive. This offensive mentality became she was completely overwhelmed with this. She gave this and, you know, everyone was hating her. And Lord Ram, he said, no. She's right. I will go to the forest. How I can be in the forest with all these servants? It will be mockery. Everyone will mock at him. He went to the forest and he took all the servants with him. You also tell me that I should take my bed to the forest and mosquito net. And, you know, how you can say this? You cannot say this. You know, she's right. And then Kaikeyi, she already prepared this vastra, this really rough vastra from the bark of the tree and kusha grass. It's really hard, really irritating clothes. So she already had this prepared. So very happily, she said, yeah, by the way, you know, it so happened that I have already the clothes for you. So Lord Ramachandra, happily, he came and he took this clothes from Kaikeyi's hands, and Lakshmana, he took this clothes from Kaikeyi's hands. And in front of everyone, they started taking off all the decorations. He put his crown down, he put all his silken clothes, and they dressed into this clothes, this ascetic clothes. And they were standing there. And Sita came. And she's so delicate. And she came to Kaikeyi and she took this clothes from her hands. And Sita started crying. Because she just couldn't even imagine that she would wear this clothes. She just looked at this clothes and she started crying. She couldn't contain herself. And then, but still, she's a very loyal wife, and she should follow the footsteps of her husband. So she took this and she started wearing this clothes. She tried to wear this clothes, but she couldn't, because this clothes she couldn't tie it. You know, it's a really rough clothes. You know, can you imagine this from kusha grass? Kusha grass is a very not a very pleasant thing to have a clothes of. So, and Lord Ramachandra saw her perplexity. She saw Sita standing there trying, and she couldn't do it, and everyone was looking at her. And then Lord Ramachandra, he took this clothes from Sita's hand, and he started wearing this clothes on her over the silken sari. He said, "No, don't worry, you know, we will put it over the silken sari." With his own hands, he put this clothes to Sita, and he said, "Yes, now we're ready to go. Now we're ready to go." And then Dasharatha said that, you know, you please sit in the chariot and Sumantra will drive you. And he told Sumantra, you bring him back, you know. And they went in this chariot. And all the people, they came to the street to see Lord Ram for the last time. Because before that, they were looking at his face and they couldn't just, usually when Lord Ram would go through Ayodhya, the big crowd of people would gather around him because they just, by seeing his face once, they couldn't stop looking at his face. They were just following him, trying to get a glimpse of his face. So now, can you imagine, all these people are standing along the roads of Ayodhya, and they know that they see the face of Lord Ram for the last time. For the long time, they will not see the face of Lord Ram. So they were crying and they were cursing the tears, because the tears were muddying their vision, and they couldn't see very clearly Lord Ram. But they couldn't help. They were crying and they were trying to stop the tears, but the tears were coming again and again and again. And they were running behind the chariot, and they were calling, Sumantra, please drive slow. Don't drive so fast. We want to see Lord Ram for the last time. Don't drive so fast. And Lord Ram said to Sumantra, drive fast. Drive fast. There is no use to prolong agony. What is the use of prolonging agony? But then some old brahmanas who were not really be able to walk properly, they were kind of limping and they were handicapped. They couldn't come in time to see Lord Ram. So they started calling Lord Ram, 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 Ram. You stay longer, you stay longer. Ram, Ram, Ram. And then Lord Ram, seeing the plight of these brahmanas who were limping along the streets but couldn't be in time, he said to Sumantra, you stop. You stop the chariot and you drive slowly, and I will go by walk. Let these brahmanas see me. So this is how he is. At this last moment, he's thinking about them. But then, while driving by the palace of Dasharatha, then, all of a sudden, they already drove away, already on the outskirts of Ayodhya. And the King Dasharatha, Maharaja Dasharatha, he was still in his palace, because when Lord Ram left, he fainted. And then Dasharatha, when he came back to senses, he started running along the street to see Lord Ram for the last time. He was running and running and running, and he saw Lord Ram. From the far away, and he called Sumantra, stop. Lord Ram was already on the chariot at that time. He called Sumantra, you stop now, stop now, stop now. And Lord Ram said to Sumantra, go fast. Go fast. What is the use? He again said the same thing. What is the use to prolong agony? Why? He said it's sinful. It's the most sinful and the most foolish thing to prolong agony. I'm going to the forest, and Sumantra was perplexed. He said, what should I do? Should I follow the order of my master, or should I follow the order of Lord Ram? And he didn't know what to do. And then Lord Ram, look, this is the last thing which I will say, or maybe one of the last things. The Lord Ram say, don't worry. You will come back and you will tell Dasharatha, when he will start rebuking you why you didn't follow my order. You will say, it was too noisy and I didn't hear your voice. Lord Ram, who is the most truthful person in the creation, he tells Sumantra, you tell the lie. Why? Because of love. Because of love to his father, because of love to his citizens, because of love to everyone. He is ready, he is Dharma personified, religious duty to personified. He directly tells to Sumantra, you tell the lie to Lord to King Dasharatha when he comes back. So that's Lord Ram. As it is said here, he perfectly takes this Lila Tanu, the body which is suitable for his pastimes. And every breath of his body is to perform these pastimes which are full of Karuna Rasa, coming due to his desire to fulfill the desires of everyone. Yeah, and at the same time, he shows how Sukadeva Goswami also say that this is the pastime of Lord Ramachandra. One of the lessons of pastimes of Lord Ramachandra is that you try to please everyone, nobody is happy anyway. You behave yourself perfectly and still there are so much problems there. This life is problematic. But Lord Ram, he taught us how we should live our life. We should live our life in a perfect manner, trying to perfectly follow his example. We should take all the adversities in our life with very sober heart, without making them into obstacles. And we should know that the main thing in this world is love. And the only way to develop love, the only way to develop relationship is to follow Dharma. This is actually the main teaching of Lord Ram. He says that the relationship only possible when you follow Dharma. The relationship between the husband and wife, relationship, real relationship, not superficial relationship. If everyone follows his duty, then everyone is ready to sacrifice, because duty means sacrifice. Duty means you're doing something which you don't want. But then when you do your duty, then the other one, the spirit of sacrifice is being invoked in another one. So the last thing which I will do, the last little story which I will tell is when after 14 years and after this battle on Lanka, ultimately Lord Ram came back. And Bharat, this whole Ramayana is about sacrifice. Ramachandra goes to the forest because he wants his father to be true to his word. He doesn't want that his reputation will be stained. His father, he's ready to give everything up, including his reputation, because of love to his son. Actually, Dasharatha said when Lord Ram came to this assembly where all the three queens were there to bid farewell to Dasharatha, Dasharatha said, my dear son, why don't you imprison me right now and become the king? This is the best way you can do now. Who will say no to you? Just put me in prison. I will be very happy sitting there in prison knowing that you are the king. And so Dasharatha, he's ready to do everything for the sake of Lord Ram. And, this Lakshman goes to the forest, and Lakshman didn't sleep for one moment for 14 years. Because during the day he was serving Lord Ram, and during the night he was guarding them. When they were together with Vishwamitra Muni, Vishwamitra Muni gave both of them two mantras, Bala and Atibala. Bala means the strength to go without eating. And Atibala means the strength, higher strength, to go without sleeping. So Lakshman had a good use of these two mantras which Vishwamitra Muni gave to them, Bala and Atibala. So for 14 years he didn't sleep. For 14 years he was there guarding Sita and Ram while they were sleeping. And he was doing everything. He was building the house. He was fetching the fruits from the forest. And then, Urmila, she's one of the probably most tragic and unsung heroes of the whole Ramayana. Everyone is singing the glories of Lord Ram, of Sita, but who speaks about Urmila? Urmila, she was the only one. Mandavi was with Bharata, Shrutakirti was with Shatrughna, Sita was with Ram. Urmila was the only one who was sitting there in her palace. Her palace is there in Dik, near Vraj. And she was sitting there. She did not eat. And she didn't sleep for 14 years also. She was meditating on her husband, on Lord Lakshman. And she wouldn't do anything else. For 14 years she was sitting there, waiting for her husband. And Bharata comes, and Bharata, he rejects the kingdom, and he goes to this Nandigram, and he sleeps in the Nandigram. He sleeps in the land, in the earth. And he didn't eat anything. He was only eating this barley soup to maintain his life somehow rather, because he didn't want to be he said himself, I don't want to be any higher than my brother. This whole story is about this. And then what happened, for 14 years, Bharat didn't look at the face of Kaikeyi. When he came back from Kandahar, from Afghanistan, where Kaikeyi's ancestral home was, he came to his mother's palace, and he told Kaikeyi, I don't want to have anything to do with you anymore. You're not my mother. From now on, I will call you Maharani Kaikeyi. This is how I will call you. I will not call you mother. Please forgive me. Please forget about me. I am not your son. Don't call me your son. I will not call you my mother. And he didn't look at her face. So once, during these 14 years, Kaikeyi came to Bharat because she was hated by everyone. Everyone in Ayodhya hated her. She was again and again and again going through this drama. So she came with tears in her eyes to Bharat. And she said, my dear son, I'm living there alone. And there's only snakes and scorpions in my palace. There's nothing else. She meant to say that all the people who are there, they're behaving like snakes and scorpions. They always say something to her. She said, my dear son, can I leave my palace and live together with you? I will also sleep on the earth, and I will also eat this barley soup which you eat, and you will not even notice me. Please allow me to be with you. Bharata looked at her and said, no, mother. Oh, he didn't say mother. No, Queen Kaikeyi. It's better for you to live in the palace, because that will be the prayaschita, the atonement for what you did. If you try to escape the consequences of what you did now, nothing will happen, good will happen with you in the next life. So better you go through the sufferings. So, but the first thing which Lord Ramachandra said when he came, when everyone greeted him and Bharat came, and Bharat brought the sandals of Lord Ramachandra, and he bowed down to Lord Ramachandra embraced him. The first person to whom Lord Ramachandra came was Kaikeyi. He didn't go to his mother. He didn't go to anyone else. He went straight to Kaikeyi. And when he came to the door of Kaikeyi's palace, he looked around and he didn't see Bharat. Because Bharat didn't want to see Kaikeyi. He said, I don't want to see your face. He said, where is Bharat? Bharat greeted me. He was always with me. What happened with Bharat? Somebody said, oh no, he went away. He doesn't want to see Kaikeyi. And Ram said, you call Bharat here. And so somebody ran and they brought Bharat to Lord Ram. And they came to Kaikeyi. And the first thing which Lord Ramachandra said to Bharat, you bow down to your mother. And he himself bowed down to Kaikeyi. And Kaikeyi started crying, and everyone started crying. Everyone was crying and crying and crying because of this karuna, because of this sacrifice which is there, for the sake of others. You know, this is what Lord Ram. And when we hear about his pastimes, then the disease of envy will vanish ultimately. We will understand that this is the most foolish thing to be envious. This is what Kaikeyi did. She was envious. She was slightly envious to Kaushalya. And look what happened. This is the most stupid thing which we can do, is to wish bad to others. We should do like Ram, not like Ravan, not like Kaikeyi, not like Mandhara. We should serve others, and by listening again and again and again, we will understand how glorious Lord Ram is. And then we will be able to appreciate properly the glories of Lord Krishna. We will not be able to appreciate the glories of Lord Krishna unless we understand what Lord Ram is teaching us. How to enter into relationship, how to deal with other people, how to care for other people. Then only we will be able to understand quite bewildering features of Lord Krishna's pastimes, which Shukadeva Goswami is about to describe to Maharaja Parikshit. And therefore, this verse is so important. Nedam yasho ragupateh surayacha yatta lilata no radhika samya vimukta dhamnach raksho vadho jaladi bandhanam astra pungaihi kim tasya shatruhanane kapayach sahayaham. What is the real glory of Lord Ram? His real glory is that he behaved perfectly as a human being. His real strength and his real dhamna. Dhamna means glory, dhamna means power, dhamna means influence, dhamna means glow, effulgence. His real effulgence is that, his real glory is that he is ready to sacrifice everything for the sake of others, for the sake of his devotees. And his devotees are ready to sacrifice everything for him. That's love. That's love. And the Lord comes here and performs his leelas of love in a suitable body, sadrisham deham, as as Sukadeva Goswami will say in the 10th canto. Okay, so that's my long class. I'm really sorry for this. Yes.